You know, I wear this coat at the start of every video, but then I take it off when I start reading because it's annoying to be wearing it. But hello, welcome back to JVSCP. Today we're going to be looking into an entry that is pretty cozy. It takes me on a little bit of a tangent about some other stuff, but I think it's a fun one. Before we begin, though, I do want to say this: we're coming up on the season of Christmas, if you didn't know, and I think it'd be fun to do some Christmas themed stories or holidays themed stories. So just before we begin, I wanted to ask that if you have any recommendations for that type of entry, you know, preferably safe, preferably not super long, but you know, I'm open to we're open to anything. Put it down in the description so we could put together a little list of them and hopefully do throughout the month of December, maybe even. We'll do a bunch of them. We'll at least do one around Christmas, but you know, if we find enough of them that are decent, then who knows? We'll see what happens during the month of December. But with that being said, let's get into today's entry. SCP-1409 by Rioghail. Ryokou, you can see the name on screen. From the SCP Wiki. Object Class: Safe. Special Containment Procedures. All recording devices containing copies of SCP-1409 are held in a secure storage compartment at Storage Site 07 when not used for testing purposes. Permission to use SCP-1409 for testing purposes must be requested from the current Level 2 staff member responsible for supervision of 1409. Agents and researchers assigned to 1409 are required to possess a valid form of open water diving certification. During testing, any device being used to play 1409 must be contained in a soundproof room, and no devices capable of recording sounds are to be allowed in the room save for the device being used to play 1409. Staff are not allowed to enter any area in which 1409 is being played unless they are wearing noise-cancelling headphones. We've got another, you don't want to hear the thing on this tape? I don't know if it's a tape, but we got another one of those. Don't get me wrong, I love me an audio-based entry. Individuals affected by 1409 are to be detained immediately. Subjects affiliated with the Foundation are to be held in custody in standard containment cells for valuable non-anomalous human beings. Minimal possible force is to be used to prevent escape attempts. Individuals exposed to 1409 not otherwise of interest to the Foundation who do not possess any diving ability may be terminated. At the first possible opportunity, SCP-1409 affected individuals with a direct connection to Foundation are to be transported to Point 1409 Alpha. Individuals are to be assisted in diving to Point 1409 Alpha by no less than 2 divers in possession of a valid civilian Master Scuba Diver qualification or equivalent. Foundation staff who have been affected by 1409 and have followed this protocol are to be placed under psychiatric observation before they may be returned to duty. Point 1409 Alpha is monitored by a Foundation-owned vessel staffed by members of Mobile Task Force Gamma 6, Deep Feeders. Any vessels approaching Point 1409 Alpha are to be monitored and their crews apprehended if they show signs of being affected by 1409 or attempt to access Point 1409 Alpha directly. Any persons found to have been affected by 1409 are to be taken into custody. Okay, so before we get into the description, what do we have here? We have something that is meant to be kept in an audio-proof room that obviously affects people, and anyone that hears it or is affected by it are to be immediately detained. If you work for the Foundation and that happens, you're to be taken to a containment cell for non-anomalous human beings, so it doesn't make you directly anomalous. And then as soon as possible after you've been affected, you're supposed to be taken to this specific location that seems to be underwater. And then once you've done that, if you work for the Foundation, you are then to be put under psychiatric observation and then be returned to duty. So presumably, you're able to get through this just fine, I guess. And now maybe you're like, hey, you just said everything that's in the article so far, but I think it's good to sometimes kind of stop and try to break through the thick layer of, bureaucracy and semi-legalese, or whatever you'd call it, just to be like, what is actually going on that we know of so far. But okay, description. SCP-1409 is a series of 4 recordings made by hydrophones located in the southern Atlantic Ocean. They are simultaneous recordings of a single set of vocalizations made by a male humpback whale. The vocalizations last for 19 minutes and 34 seconds and have been determined by testing to be the active part of the recording. Holy shit, this is gonna be a story about the loneliest whale in the world, which is one of my favorite real-life sad stories. I don't know if I should spoil it right now. Maybe that would sort of spoil the article. So yeah, I think I'll hold off on it, but I'm guessing this is about that. And if it is, this is such a pleasant surprise for me. I love that story. It's very sad, but yeah. Individuals who listen to the vocalizations report that they hear a human voice singing in an unknown language in place of the actual content of the recording. While the meaning of the song cannot be made out, each listener believes that the voice is directly addressing them, and some assert that the singer sounds sad or lonely. Listeners are also unable to determine the gender of the singer. If an individual listens to 1409 for a certain period of time, the primary property of 1409 comes into effect. Initially, listeners begin to identify strongly with the singer of 1409 and show a marked and unusual ability to remember the song. Affected individuals will not, however, be able to recreate the song themselves, claiming any attempts to do so or even hum the tune sounds wrong. The amount of time spent listening to 1409 before it has an effect on the listener appears to vary depending on the individual and the section of the recording in question. Over a length of time, which varies significantly between individuals, affected subjects will begin to experience a strong desire to travel to point 1409 Alpha, which I'm just gonna start calling Point Alpha. Point Alpha is an area comprising approximately 40 cubic meters of water, located roughly 20 meters below the surface of the water in the Atlantic Ocean, at west and north. Examination of records kept by the research institute responsible for the maintenance of the hydrophones which made the recording indicate that this location was the origin point of 1409, and that shortly after it was recorded, an unusual convergence of aquatic wildlife was noted at the location. Individuals affected by 1409 will attempt to reach Point Alpha by any means available to them, although most are reluctant to resort to acts they personally find immoral or distasteful. In cases where no adequate transportation is available, subjects will attempt to reach a coastline and swim towards Point Alpha, invariably resulting in exhaustion and drowning. It is not known how affected subjects are able to locate Point Alpha, but subjects report they are able to sense whether they are moving towards it or not. Amnestics have no effect on this compulsion. If a subject affected by 1409 successfully reaches Point Alpha, they invariably experience shock and feelings of betrayal, claiming that they were led to believe there was a person or object at 1409 of great value, although they cannot explain the precise nature of the promised object. Subjects express distrust or hatred of the singer in the 1409 recording, and some experience depression. However, after this point, the direct effect of 1409 on the subject apparently ceases. SCP-1409 is able to affect individuals who are aware of its properties and individuals who have previously been exposed and have successfully reached Point Alpha. Such individuals maintain either they or previous 1409 subjects failed to find the object of value at Point Alpha due to a lack of effort or a mistake on their part. So basically, after you've heard this audio, you'll be compelled to go to this specific location that you can somehow just kind of vibe your way to. You can just kind of be like, yeah, it's somewhere in this general direction. but once you get there, you find that there's nothing there, and you get depressed. I find it surprising that the Foundation is so accommodating to this, that they're like, yeah, let's get some professional divers in to help them reach the point without drowning, and then kind of, you know, let them talk to a therapist for a while until they feel better, and then they can get back to work. Sounds like a lot of money and effort to do something completely reasonable, mind you. I'm not saying that they shouldn't be doing this. I think it's good that they are, but it's a little bit surprising to me that they wouldn't just like, well, you know, let's just close this file and not investigate much further because, you know, I don't want to spend money on that. Okay, the entry finishes off on an addendum.
Addendum 1409-1. On the of 19th. A small research vessel operating in the Atlantic was found abandoned and severely damaged, apparently by a storm. Evidence found aboard the vessel indicates that a Whalesong with similar properties to SCP-1409 was recorded by the vessel, although damage to monitoring equipment incurred during the storm has rendered the recording unintelligible. The events that occurred following the record are unknown, though it is believed all on board perished attempting to reach the origin point, leaving the boat unattended during a storm. As a result of this incident, it is presently hypothesized that SCP-1409's properties stem from the anomalous nature of the whale that originally made the vocalizations, rather than the vocalizations themselves. Although this is not currently confirmed, agents are advised to monitor unusual hydrophone recordings made in the Atlantic Ocean within 3,000 kilometers of Point Alpha. Mobile Task Force Theta 5, the bigger boat, have been informed of the possibility of such a whale existing and tasked with locating it should another 1409 event occur. The theoretical humpback whale which created 1409 is designated 1409-A for provisional purposes.
Okay, let me pull up the story that I'm thinking this is sort of based on. It's been called the loneliest whale in the world, but more officially they call it the 52 Hertz whale. And if you've been around online for a few years, which I assume you have, you've probably heard this story before, but if you haven't, I'm gonna give you a super summarized version because it's beautiful and sad. So basically, in the North Pacific Ocean, there is a whale. It should be noted that this whale has never been seen, which I think it just adds to how much this sounds like a fictional story. It makes sense that someone would base an SCP entry on this, because it already kind of sounds like an SCP entry in a way. But there's a whale. They've never seen it. They just know of it because they've recorded its I guess it's a mating call. Not even necessarily a mating call, I think. It's just like the vocalizations that whales do. Take everything I say with a grain of salt. I'm not an expert here. I'm kind of eyeballing the Wikipedia article here and giving you the cliff notes, I guess. So they don't know if it is a blue whale or a fin whale hybrid, it says, but basically blue whales usually vocalize somewhere between 10 and 39 hertz and fin whales at around 20 hertz. But as you could probably guess from the name there, this specific whale vocalizes at 52 hertz. They think this might be because it has some type of deformity in its vocal cords, or that it's deaf, that it can't hear itself. But for some reason, there's this one singular whale that vocalizes in a range that other whales simply either cannot hear, they're not capable of hearing it, or just don't recognize as being another whale. And this makes it so that this one whale just goes around essentially screaming out into the void, right? Like calling out and no one's answering. And I think that this story really resonates with a lot of people for a multitude of reasons. Like there's so many analogs to the human experience, right? The feeling of shouting out into the void of you know, be it outer space, how we're at the end of the day, there's the great silence out there while we're just sending out vinyl records and messages and shit like that. Or be it, you know, posting on Twitter or Blue Sky or wherever the fuck you post and just getting nothing, showing off your art, no one says anything. It's like a lab-grown perfect story of loneliness. And I remember reading it for the first time way back in the day, and it resonated with me on a very like deep level. I feel like back when I was, I probably was 16 years old or something at that point, so it's been a good while. But yeah, even though like I couldn't tell you exactly what's going on in the article, where it leads you to a specific place where you then end up like not finding. I guess there's something there where it kind of makes the listener that hears, now I'm talking about the SCP entry to be clear, it makes you, the person that hears that recording, sort of obsess over this one specific spot, and you go there, and then once you get there, there's nothing, which leads you to essentially experience possibly what the 52 Hertz whale is experiencing. This like strong sense of communicating and then expecting a reply, but then finding that there's nothing there, and this leads to anger, depression, loneliness, etc. I guess that's like one angle of it, but yeah, I'm not completely sure how it ties in, and for all I know, maybe this entry isn't even based on the 52 Hertz whale at all, but that's, it feels like it is, right? And just to close out the story of the whale, it's apparently been heard every year since they first discovered it, so I'm guessing it's still out there doing its sad thing. But if you Google 52 Hertz whale and you click on news, the latest article is from September 2025, and it has the title 52 Hertz whale, the world's loneliest whale may not be as lonely as we thought. And I'm gonna do what most people do online, and I'm not even gonna read the article. I'm gonna read that headline and I'm gonna think, good for him or her, good for them, I don't want to read it because there's probably a bunch of facts and logic that's gonna tell me that it probably still is, but it's nice to think that it's that things are getting better for it, as for us all. And with that weird outro talking about something completely different, maybe a weird entry overall, not the entry itself, but the way I sort of presented it and talked about it. But I had a good time, and I hope you did too. Up here, I'm gonna say up here, are all of our YouTube members and the patrons that support this channel. Thank you very much to you guys for supporting this little channel of ours. And if you're watching this thinking, hey, I enjoyed this, I have $1, I have an extra $1 just laying around, then feel free to throw it our way, either as a YouTube member or through our Patreon. Everything should be linked down below. And with that, thank you so much for watching. Talk to you next time. Bye bye.